Hi everyone. So tonight I had the pleasure of interviewing Dave, and Dave lives in the Merseyside in Lancashire, and he shares with us today some of his thoughts and feelings around what's going on today, how he came to where he is now, and what he most wants to give back to our society. He really enjoys writing and communicating and has his own YouTube channel. I'll provide a link to that below this clip. But here he is talking about some of his ideas and what's going on and what he feels humanity really needs today, and also sometimes what he needs himself. So enjoy watching.
Hello.
Hello. Would you prefer if I call you David or Dave? What would you prefer?
Most people call me Dave, so Dave, if that's okay.
That's fine. Thank you, Dave.
No worries.
So whereabouts do you live, Dave?
So I live in a place called Lydia, which is just on the Merseyside and West Lancs border.
Okay.
So that's where I'm from.
Yeah, okay. I could sort of tell by the accent, but
yeah,
that way. So I'm going to start with the beginning, right from the word go. And I've got a series of we'll see how many questions we get through. If you get to sort of like an hour and we've kind of had enough, we'll call it quits. But let's see where we go. I'd like to know, first of all, what your experiences to date of the situation and how you came to where you are now.
Yeah, so, okay. If we go back to January, February 2020, right, I'd already started writing a book because I felt that as a society, we were sick. We were living in a sick society. I could see it in the way people talk to each other. I could tell by the way it was so polarized. I thought that the values such as intelligence and emotional intelligence didn't appear to be very well valued. And it was almost like it just needed a trigger for us to descend into the abyss. And it was just this feeling that I had. Anyway, obviously I didn't predict what was to come. But alongside that as well, I had this skepticism and cynicism regarding the mainstream media. I'm not even going to call it a healthy cynicism, actually. I'm going to say I could see the lies and the fear that they spread with regard to various different topics, which meant that I was already very distant from the media by that point. I'd seen it with various different topics. I'd seen it with, and I'm not going to go political here, because I'm more interested in society and people rather than politics. But I did see a politicization of issues with regard to Brexit and Trump. And I certainly saw it with climate change as well. And you could go back further and further and further and just see how the media takes an issue and creates an apocalyptic scenario to scare the masses, as it were. So that was what my take on the media was. And I also saw a society that had poor societal value systems. At the same time, I was also, and I continue to realize that, I'm part of that society. I am part of that problem. And in many ways, I was and continue to be a hypocrite, but that's all about being aware. And even the most kind of spiritually developed person would acknowledge, I'm sure, that it's impossible not to be a hypocrite to some degree. So when I talk about hypocritical, and I will come to the point here, I'm just setting the context, but so I've watched the Netflix, I've been on the Facebook, I've drunk too much, I've eaten too much junk food, I've spent too much time looking at my phone. So a lot of the issues that I've identified in society myself, I was partaking in those types of behavior as well. So there was that going on, and I was interested why I'd fallen prey and fallen victim as well. Then along came COVID-19, and set against all that, my initial response was, no, this doesn't feel right. This is being spun. I don't believe it. It's again the media playing and spinning it to be an apocalyptic scenario. But as time went on, I saw people around me becoming more and more and more and more concerned, and I was noticing it, and I could. Obviously, the media was stepping up in fear. And each day that went by, that fear started to affect me, and it culminated. I was in work, and I was serving a lady, and I was just chatting to her, and she told me she was a respiratory nurse at a local hospital. And I said to her, I hope you don't mind me asking, is it as bad as the media are making it out to be? And she said, I'm sorry to tell you, it's worse. Doctors are going to have to make heartbreaking decisions about who lives and who dies. And my mood just sunk then. And all of a sudden, I can't believe this. I've misjudged it. The other people were right. The media is right. Then I went home, and I remember watching the images on TV from the hospital in Italy and it was showing old people in intensive care like gasping for air, and it was saying that these are the lucky ones who've actually got treatment. There's all others here who are just going to die. And I was like, oh my God, this is coming to the UK. And like they were saying, we were 3 weeks behind Italy, and I was thinking, oh my God, you know, people I know are going to die. I might die. This is going to be absolutely horrendous. Then I lost my job. So it was just like, oh my God, this is just the worst thing ever. So then I just started drinking really heavily, and I had issues with alcohol, and it was pure and simply escaping. It was the only thing I could do. The weather was really nice, so I'd go down to the shop, I'd buy myself four cans, I'd sit in the garden. It was like 22 degrees, 23 degrees in that first lockdown, and I'd just sit there and drink, and then I'd go and get myself another 4, just a bit of a oblivion. And so it went on. Then I was paying attention though, whilst I was drinking a lot. I was paying attention, and clearly on some level, I wasn't fully indoctrinated. I couldn't have been, because I managed to extricate myself out of that trance that I was in after about 3 to 4 weeks. I'd say I was fully removed back out of it again. And one of the things I've done a couple of videos about this on my YouTube channel is trying to remember and to analyze what it was that reeled me in. I think I understand that aspect better than how I was able to extricate myself again. Other than I do try and pay attention, and I think I can spot a lie. I remember hearing the phrase "the new normal," and there was just something sinister sounding about that phrase. And I was watching the government press conferences, and what struck me was that they never, ever, ever reassured the nation that this was going to be temporary. They never ever said, just hang in there, we're going to be completely back to normal by the summer. They never said that. And then I did the clapping for the NHS for 2 weeks. Don't think I'll ever forgive myself for that. Anyway, I was doing the clapping for the NHS, and I spoke to my brother on the phone, and he said to me, I'm not doing it anymore. He said, it just seems a bit too socialist for me. And Chris, my brother, like me, he's very much anti-socialist. You know, in terms of if I do have politics, I am more on the right of the spectrum. I believe in a smaller state and individual responsibility, which actually isn't the prevailing political, atmosphere in my city where I'm from, Liverpool, which is very left-wing. Anyway, I go off on a tangent with that. So I said to him, oh yeah, you're right, actually. We're all out there clapping like seals, like something from North Korea. Then I started going down the rabbit hole. I was on Facebook groups, started connecting with a few people. Then I saw that the government had downgraded it to non-high consequence infectious disease, right? And I thought, right, that is it now. They are hiding the truth in plain sight. They are being so clever because they're telling us that there's a pandemic, whilst at the same time admitting that there's not a pandemic. And then I saw the minutes of the SAGE meeting and this was the moment where I realised there was something really bad going on, where it said, I can't remember the exact wording, but it was something along the lines of not enough people feel sufficiently threatened, so we need to increase our messaging or whatever it was. And I thought, so they're not trying to raise awareness of a pandemic, they're trying to terrorize people here. And then so it went on, and then all the pieces of the jigsaw just started slotting into place. I started connecting all the dots. Then there was the whole Trump thing that was going on as well a little bit later in the year. And then I was looking at China, and then I was researching World Economic Forum, UN Agenda 21, and, you know, the all that conspiracy theories that I entertained any theory. And I said to people, Why don't we just stop calling them conspiracy theories? Let's call them theories, because they may turn out to be true. And lo and behold, those of us who said that, you know, it was all about they were gonna, it wasn't as bad as a pandemic as they were making it out, and it was all engineered in order to make people have a vaccine. Well, they were right, weren't they? But just to wrap up on that question, I've really, in terms of what's actually happened, only looked to see what others have said, check the evidence for myself, and then try to share with other people. Now, what is society and how it behaves, and how individuals, how a society and the individuals in it can be morally corrupted to such a degree that is absolutely terrifying to me, and to try and explore the reasons why, as Western nations in the 21st century, why are we so susceptible to manipulation? Why are so many of us walking through life in this stupefying slumber, just oblivious to what's going on? Like, so distracted by things that don't matter, that matters of life and death aren't being noticed. And so I feel like I'm caught in this web of like insanity, this maelstrom of like complete and utter madness. And I feel like I'm one of the few sane ones, although more and more people. I'm lucky that I've got quite a few friends who are the same as me.
Yeah.
But I've struggled mostly with seeing the moral corruption that's taken place, how people have compromised on their morals and normalized extreme.
Sucked into this kind of thing, you mean?
Well, yeah, it's yeah. I mean, anyone, for me, as far as I'm concerned, if anyone who's got the merest understanding of recent European history, what went on in Nazi Germany, what went on under Stalin, and then go further afield, what went on under Mao in China, Pol Pot in Vietnam, I'm seeing the same things. I'm seeing the same patterns, and I'm seeing a lack of awareness in the general population about that they're going down that same path, and you're desperately trying to say to them. So I think we've gone from the point now where there's been a subsection of society, which has been relatively small, that's tried to warn the majority about an impending catastrophe and how they're not noticing this impending catastrophe. And increasingly, we're moving now towards, there's more and more people who can also see a catastrophe unfolding. Yet we're in many ways, that's good, but in many ways we're in a worse situation because people are now aware of the problem on some level, yet so many of them are still not doing anything about it at all, which really, last week I've gradually pulled back from a lot of people, and last week I really took a step back because I simply, for my own sanity and my own energy levels, and it's affected everyone psychologically, it's certainly affected me, I've had to just say, I want to limit the number of people in my life who are living a life dictated by fear. I need people who are brave and who are going to stand up and who are going to contribute to the conversation and who are going to actually fight for the next generation's rights. And parents in particular should be the first people to do that. They've got it the wrong way round as far as I'm concerned. It's like, protect the family, keep them safe. Again, if you knew a little bit about history, people this way, I think you knew a little bit about history and about how the dynamics of power work. Once your government terrorizes you, your children are not safe. In fact, they're the absolute opposite. And now is the time to stand up and do what's right. So anyway, that's me. That's a pretty detailed overview.
It's almost like your world is split. So on the one hand, you've got the supporters who are in agreement with you. And on the other, you see the others, almost like it's I pick up on a slight anger in the fact that they're not able to see it because this government is just being so tyrannical, and they cannot see where they're heading. That sort of we can't help those who don't want to help themselves, kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's anger is the word there, and you know, so much of what society tells us, when you unwrap it and you investigate it, one of those things is anger. Anger's bad. Well, it's the most destructive emotion, absolutely, and usually yes. But sometimes the fact that a society isn't angry and is instead mostly apathetic, that is worrying to me.
Anger's an emotion.
And it should be the natural emotion as well at the moment. I say it should be. I shouldn't say it should be because I can only talk through my own perception. But what I'm saying is that I don't know why once people have gone on the same journey as I have and have realised that they were lied to, which is now, in my opinion, the majority, I don't detect an anger. I just detect rabbit in the headlights, a bit of a, I don't know what to say. And then you've got the other group, which is ever diminishing now, that are completely brainwashed, but it's still significant. But the problem is so many people in across the world now have invested so much in this lie, right? They've done the lockdown, they've worn the mask, they've gone for the testing, and now they've got the vaccine, right? They're so emotionally and mentally, it's their story. It's almost like we've survived COVID, aren't we? It's like, it's the story of our time is dealing with a pandemic, right? And they've got this idea that we're about to be the heroes of our own story and come out and go back to the old normal. And you feel like saying to them, you feel like shaking them and saying, for God's sake, you've been fed so many lies and you're still under a spell because you just will not open your minds up. But that is obviously the genius of brainwashing. And I don't understand how they've been able to do it because I don't understand the psychological techniques. But clearly, they have got some great minds working for the government, they're behavioural psychologists, being able to make people behave in ways that are antithetical, not only to what a free and liberal society is, but also antithetical to what it is to be a human being, which is to connect with each other, to hug each other, to see each other. It's absolute genius the way they've done it. But how it's played out it's like watching. I've been thinking about it. There are some fates that are worse than death, and I think I've already lived through them. I honestly do. How I was last summer, and I've read your on your two websites as well, and you seem to have been through a similar journey to me. Last summer, I've never felt so alone and so cut off from people and so like helpless as I watch people who I know just descend into utter insanity and madness. And obviously I was dealing with it with the drinking. Yeah, I was the one who was being told that I had the wrong end of the stick. I wasn't being taken seriously. And as time went on, now there are people in my life who have admitted to me, they've said, you were right, Dave. And all credit to anyone who changes their mind. But fate's worse than death, things to be scared of worse than death, isolation. And the other one is knowledge of an incoming tyranny. Knowledge of what that could possibly be. For me, I'm not going to say I'm not scared of death anymore because I think it's enough. But I will fight for this to the last. I will, and I don't care. I do not care. I will. People have done it in the past, and I'll do it now. Because I've experienced in my life emotions that are so traumatic, and I don't know how I've hung on. And the fact that I have hung on now has given me like such a hard kind of I feel so resilient now. I really do. I feel that nothing can break me. And I really do feel that way. Even though I have bad days and I still have a little drink every now and again, and I have outbursts. I do. They seem to be about once a month. I just lose it with people. And I don't apologise anymore either, Kate. I do not apologise. And I say to people, I'm not apologising anymore for how I feel about this. Because you say to people, I've tried to convey it through humour. I've tried to convey it through statistics. I've tried to convey it through context and evidence, through logic, through understanding, through trying to empathise. Yet still, 14 months into this, not one person, and I mean not one person, who I know or anything I've seen online or in the media has come up with one reason as to how any of it is justified. And I think deep down people know that their position is indefensible, which is why they don't even try to defend it, because they know they can't. Because it is indefensible, as far as I'm concerned, absolutely, utterly indefensible. Pure evil has taken place in our world. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, do you think that some people are frightened of standing apart from the masses? I mean, this isn't a question I've got, but it leads on from what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
That some people, it's almost like, you talk to them and it's almost like they've got fingers in their ears. It's almost like they can't hear you, and you're thinking you're talking in plain English.
Yeah.
So what is it for them to not want to grasp it? Do you think it's because they don't want to stand apart from others? Because it can be a lonely road for some people.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of factors. I think that how the brainwashing works on a psychological level, I don't understand. So, so my answer to this is I don't know. But what I will say is they have been brainwashed. Clearly, some people are more susceptible than others to brainwashing, and I have some theories about that. But I think it's they're invested in this story of COVID, so they're emotionally, mentally, particularly mentally invested in it, and also yes, to on some subconscious level, people are going to be very, very afraid, because there might be something in them that feels that something isn't right, and if they've got somebody telling them or showing them that something definitely isn't right, it's too scary for them.
It's cognitive.
And it's exactly as you describe. It's like they don't even hear you. They just glaze over. It's like that you see the same look in people's eyes. It's like the different people, it's the same look. They just glaze over and then change the subject. Or they tell you to no one calls you a conspiracy theorist anymore, but they tell you to.
Well, they do.
They
do hear.
Do they? Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm hearing less and less of that now, but it's still an unwillingness amongst many people to engage.
It's to acknowledge.
We're not a society to acknowledge it, but we're not a society. We weren't. It's a society that values conversation. Whatever the opposite of an age of conversation is, that's, in my opinion, we live in that age now. And there's a number of reasons for that. So that was the starting point. So now where there's something that is exceptionally important, that people discuss it and share their ideas and experiences, and the fact that a significant percentage of people in our country are simply unwilling to do that is a massive problem, is a huge problem. So, yeah.
So moving on, talking about the lockdowns, etc. What do you think about those who attempted and in some cases succeeded in staying open during the lockdowns? What are your thoughts on that? I mean, there's a few people that popped up. I think there was a hairdressers in the north, and I think there was Aaron Walton in Bristol, for example.
Yeah.
Had a lot of hassle.
Yeah. Well, all I can say to them is that they are like history throws up. Whenever tyranny descends in any era, you just look back through history, and there's always these rare individuals who are prepared to make the ultimate sacrifice. And what needs to happen in the early days of a totalitarian regime, and we're still in just about the early days, what needs to happen is that people you can solve it through peaceful means, through conversation and through civil disobedience. And the act of opening their businesses was that civil disobedience that was required, which was, no, I'm going to disobey the rules because it is my right to be free to run my business. And other types of civil disobedience would be obviously people refusing to wear masks, not because they're medically exempt. Technically, I'm medically exempt, right? But I wouldn't wear one anyway, because from a moral perspective, because I think it's so wrong. So those rare individuals who did keep their businesses open. I mean, I talk about the feeling of isolation and loneliness, and I'm sure what they would have liked to happen is that more businesses did the same thing, because there is strength in numbers, and I don't think we've necessarily seen that. So you need strength in numbers with regard to people opening their businesses, strength in numbers with regard to people breaking lockdown, not wearing masks. But excuse me, there's some interesting, sorry, Bella, interesting psychological experiments that have been done with regard to, you talk about the masses and how they need social proof in order to display a certain type of behavior. And there's a tipping point whereby if the masses see enough people displaying another type of behavior, all of a sudden they have social proof of this other type of behavior, which makes it more acceptable. And it is coming down to numbers, this, and slowly but surely, very, very, very slowly, those who are in the camp of understanding what's going on are starting to make decisions to be, to be disobedient. And the more that happens, and the more people that don't wear masks, the more people that break lockdown, the more people that open their businesses and run them however they want, the more it'll be noticed, which will attract more and more and more people. So these people that you talk about, these individuals, are the bravest of the brave, who right at the start of the leaders. And the process is very, very slow, I think, at first. Very, very slow. They're leaving them.
I was certainly glued to that. It was a video of Aaron Walton, who was resisting the police coming into his shop.
Yeah.
And then him getting arrested. And I watched all the video, and I was really quite humbled by what he did. I thought, you go, guy. That's really good. So have you ever seen that picture? I think it's the masses, or they're all assembled, and at the front there's one sort of governor.
Yeah.
And the masses are kind of standing up, and then they go down, and then they realize one by one they start standing back up again. And there's only one rule there.
Yeah.
The masses. It's like the government. There's not that many people in the government.
Absolutely, yeah. I know exactly the image that you're talking about, because it displays in really simple, easy to understand way the power of the power in numbers. And as George Orwell said, the power is with the proles, and that's what people don't realise. And I think that it goes back to another problem I think we have with our age, is that I don't necessarily think that people see themselves as individuals anymore, and that let alone individuals that do and should and must have a stake. They must be a stakeholder in society. They must be contributing to the conversations. They must be involved in decision making. People have kind of like absolved themselves of that type of responsibility. So when tyranny does knock at the door, as it always, as it will do, in time, and it has done, people are kind of, but they don't know what to do. Yet there are those brave ones who are the very, very first ones who spot the problem, and the very, very first ones who make the decision to accept the ridicule, to accept the ostracization, to accept being excluded, to be laughed at, to be vilified. They do that because they understand. Sorry?
David Icke was a good example of that back in the 70s or the 80s, when he stood out on a Terry Wogan show and was literally ridiculed. Absolutely. And now the followers he's got is just amazing.
Exactly. I mean, David Icke was so prophetic. And, as each day goes by, he becomes less of a conspiracy theorist and more of a prophet. And I think it was because he was one of those trailblazers, like I say, one of those people who, I don't know, are they chosen, are they made, I don't know, but who dedicate their lives to the truth, no matter what the consequences are for them as individuals. The truth is all that matters in life. And I talk about the truth in my videos, because I actually think there's no such thing as the truth, but I do believe in personal truth. But what I do believe in is, I believe it's easier to coalesce around exposing a lie, because everyone will have different ideas on what the truth is. But personal truth is all about humility, open-mindedness, challenging our beliefs. And I think what David Icke has done is he's tried to very, very humbly try to introduce people to the idea that their lives and their world are going to change beyond recognition if they don't open their minds, if they don't challenge their beliefs. And he's showing, he's not telling them. David Icke doesn't tell, he just says, look, I'm just showing you this. You know, I've done all the research for you. I'm showing you this. I'm trying to warn you. You know, this is coming down the tracks, and how right David Icke was about a lot of things. He really was.
Yeah.
You know, and a great communicator as well, I think. A very humble man. I think he's a very humble man, David Icke. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a lot of very interesting stories, and also how he's basically reversed his arthritic pain. He could barely walk at one point, and he's just kind of somehow managed to sort of heal him. I mean, I think he's got slightly bent fingers with arthritis, but he functions. Right. He doesn't have any pain because he's learned to overrule the pain. But that's another thing.
Yeah.
So that was that question. I also wanted to ask you about what you thought about the censorship, your feelings and thoughts on what's going on in Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and how people have had to kind of go onto different platforms as a result. This I'll probably put this onto BitChute just in case. If we do say
no worries.
Quite right, I don't really want to get banned on my YouTube platform.
Yeah, no props. It's the censorship is it's terrifying. And again, I've had my own personal experience of it, because I'm right. I can't remember whether I said at the start. I think I did, about I'm writing a book, and I had an agreement with a publisher. You know, I had a very productive chat with them. We talked marketing, editing, cover design, price, everything. And then they said, just send us the manuscript so we can start getting a feel for it. And I just got one line email back from saying, thanks, it reads very coherently, but I can't remember the exact words. Due to the circumstances, we won't be able to publish it. That's all it said. So I rung them up and I said, I'd like a little bit more explanation, please, what this is all about. And I just got a load of gobbledygook about NHS wards being full and coronavirus. And I said, I'm sorry. I said, I'm really sorry. I said, but I don't understand the connection. What's that got to do with my book? Oh, you know, because a couple of the things that you've said in your book, and there's a tiny bit, you know, the way the NHS has been portrayed in my book. That was enough, because most of my book is about general societal observations. It's not really focusing on the fallout from the statistics and things like that have been manipulated. But just that was merely enough for them to say, we don't want to work with you anymore. And similarly, a YouTube video that I did, where I again questioned the way in which the NHS was being portrayed, the fact that seemingly there wasn't any criticism of the NHS warranted. I think it called the video, "Are you sick of being lectured to by doctors, scientists and journalists?" And it was just a comment on the patronising, condescending tone of the mainstream media, and how about they didn't represent the millions of dispossessed people in this country, and instead were deifying and obviously spinning the story. So that was my own personal experience, and I've seen I think in sense of Donald Trump, you know, that was when I thought, oh my God, they've just censored Trump. But it fits though, because when you're wanting to deceive, you have to censor. You've got to censor. I mean, look at the, I was going to say the debate around the vaccines. Look at the non-debate around the vaccines. Surely,
the lack of.
That's what I mean, lack of debate. Surely in a more sane world, there would be, they talk about the science, like there's ever such a thing as the science. Science is underpinned by doubt, right? When you look at the last year, you see the modelling that's being used to justify lockdowns. As each day goes by with a model, the mistakes are going to pile up and up and up and up and up. So there is no such thing as the science. It's a prediction based on one set of parameters. And it's similar with the vaccines that have been developed as well. if anything ever in the history of the world should have been should have been allowed a kind of like these vaccines. Yeah, no, there's no debate allowed whatsoever. Censorship, it goes with the propaganda, it goes with the restrictions on freedom, it goes with the robbery of individual liberties, it goes with the threats to our privacy. It all goes together because it always does. Again, you look back in history, it's always the same measures are applied every time. Whenever, if they want to set, if a totalitarian regime comes into force, you look back and you see, how did they do it? Well, they did it by propaganda, coercion, manipulation, and censorship. So it completely makes sense to me why they're doing it. It's utterly terrifying. But one thing I will say is that the one real reason of optimism I have, other than the people like yourself who I can connect with, is the fact that we do have the internet, which is in so many ways a scourge of our age, particularly social media. However, they try as they might, they can't censor everything. The information is finding its way out, and slowly but surely it's trickling down. They just can't do it. They can't control everything on the internet, because what they sometimes forget is that there are there's people cleverer than them out there. And more to the point, there are people who are fighting for truth, not indulging in lies. So in the end, we will win it. I still worry very, very much about what needs to happen first and how many people are going to die, not to be too stark about it. But I think their arrogance will be their undoing, really. I do. I think, yeah.
Okay, we're forced to work online, we're forced to work from home, not all of us, but quite a lot of us. But actually it's got positivities to that, because we can connect around the world. And we can find things, as you say. It can be an advantage because we're not going out and seeing our friends and hugging them and everything else, but we're still able to connect with them. So it's kind of weighing it up, isn't it? And I'm sorry to hear that you've obviously been personally affected by the censorship. I get affected if I go onto Facebook. I just get affected. I post something and the fact checker pops up and I think,
yeah,
that must be true then.
Yeah, Facebook jail. Yeah. That's when you know you're telling the truth, when you're in Facebook jail.
Yeah, if you get censored, you're truthful.
Yeah, exactly.
So leading on to the advantages of this sort of thing, and I know obviously you said you had some pretty negative things happening with losing your job during the lockdown, but what positive benefits do you think you might have experienced due to the lockdown? Strange question perhaps, but
No, not at all, because no matter what you're talking about, on most things, there will always be positives, and will also be going forward. There will be positives that we can't even conceive of yet. We'll look back and think, wow, that was born out of. So the positives associated with lockdown. Well, for me, I think that it's happened at a funny time in my life as well, because I'm 39 now, so I feel like, and I've seen a bit of life. I've done a lot of things, and I've done a lot of things I regret. I've been to a lot of places. I think I've got a fairly wide experience of a number of different jobs, worked in a number of different environments, and this has happened at a time in my life when I was already rejecting the societal templates that are laid down for all of us. I never did feel comfortable with the 9 to 5 and the job promotion, etc., etc. So the lockdown happens, and this happened, and I made the conscious decision, I think, to kind of commit my experience, myself to fighting for the truth, for my own personal truth, really, which, as difficult as it was, particularly last summer, and it really was traumatic, it's been liberating, because it's removed so many fears for me. And it's the moment that this is what frustrates me about people, it's the moment when you realize that people get very distorted ideas, and I know this because I did myself, about risk. So people are brainwashed into thinking that once they've got a job, they must keep that job, got the salary coming in every month and their pension. They don't necessarily compute the risks associated with not moving, was not doing something else. So I broke through that fear. So that's the first thing, is the sense of liberation. Secondly, the job that I did get to replace, I'm just a delivery driver at the moment, and it's brilliant. I love it. I work with really nice people. There's a bit of social interaction when you go into the store. And apart from that, it's driving around, delivering. I can listen to music and listen to podcasts. So I can kill two birds with one stone at the moment. I can educate myself, listening to Jordan Peterson podcasts whilst working, which is great. So sometimes whereas a year ago, I would never have thought that, I'd be delivering pizzas and I'd be, very happy with it. But I am, because it's completely stress-free. So there's that as well. The third is a sense of liberation, and a sense of not even rebelling against the system, but just rejecting a lot of it and creating your own unique experience. You also then get a surge in creativity because you're not confined. That claustrophobia that's imposed on you, 9 to 5 job, stress, must get a job promotion, all the rest of it. And there's other societal expectations as well. Remove that. Well, it's like people in work in an office, for example, they're like animals in captivity. They can't be. They're working within confines. They can't be their true, authentic self. Authenticity is another value that's lacking in society. I think that's why Trump divided opinion, by the way, just to go off on a tangent, because like him or loathe him, I think he was authentic. But I go off on a tangent there. So you can be authentic, liberated, realize that a lot of the fears you can break through and you can work through, and kind of creative ethos that starts flowing through you. And also, the probably the biggest one is what I've noticed is I would say the same subsection of society that is like us. I see those people around, going out for walks together, enjoying nature. But I'm also seeing almost like a return to bygone times as well. And it's lovely to see loads of kids playing in the park, playing football. I see young mums pushing prams around. I see neighbours talking to each other. And in my local area, I've had more conversations with people in the last year than I've had in the previous 38 years combined. I honestly have. So there are positives. Undoubtedly, there are positives. And the more people that talk, the more they realise that, no, they're not the mad ones. What they're thinking is right. So that's, I feel there's a bit of a, we call it the awakening, don't we? There is a spiritual awakening where people want to reconnect with each other, with nature, with themselves.
Yeah, it's almost your own personal awakening. It feels to me like through a kind of crisis of your own, it became like an existential crisis through which you are able to kind of blossom like a phoenix coming out of the ashes almost.
Yeah, absolutely.
I understand it as you're telling me.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
The frustration is still there with the rest of the people, but you've been able to form something different in your own self, which sounds really, quite amazing, really.
Yeah, I think so. And, here's the other thing as well, is that I do strongly believe that genius resides within everybody. I truly believe that. I mean, people say you can do anything if you put your mind to it. Well, you can't. But that's just unrealistic. But I believe if you dig deep enough and you're introspective enough and brave enough, you can unlock your own genius. I truly believe that. So when people limit themselves, it frustrates me because I did it for a large part of my life. But now I'm realizing the true potential I have. I've also realized that, I'm a leader, and I'm happy to lead as well. And it doesn't really faze me anymore. It doesn't. I know that there's so much of my character I need to work on. Honestly, there is so much. I'm still ill-disciplined. I can be selfish. I can still be lazy, procrastinate. I drink too much. I'm all too aware of what my flaws are. I really am. And I'll talk at length about them as well, because I do believe it's important to be aware and always stay grounded and always stay rooted all the time. And I try and do that. But at the same time, I think this world needs me. So if I have to be a bit of a bastard, I will be, because it's not a time to be nice now. See, it's a time for brutal honesty, integrity, authenticity, and bravery. It's not a time for niceness. I mean, you can earn the right to be nice if you're doing all those things, fair enough, but nice, what is nice anyway? It's not necessarily a virtue.
Kind of vision for you, Dave, where you're kind of like rescuing the damsels from the fire, which is the politics. Oh, I have to save you now. Come on, all going to come through. I'm Dave, saviour. Which leads me quite neat. I mean, there are other questions, but obviously all the things that we've talked about have led into lots of different areas and avenues.
Yeah.
So yeah. Onto the idea that we want to form a new community of like-minded people who've got talents and things they want to offer and share with others. Where would you say your main talents and abilities lie? Apart from saving the damsels in distress from the mastering people.
I haven't saved any yet. I'll have a look out for them.
Well, then as well, it doesn't have to be women. I mean, children. Save the children from the schools.
I think what I'm. I write well. I know that I've always been a good writer, and I'm writing a book at the moment and video content. I guess communicating a message, really.
Raising awareness in the message kind of thing.
Yeah, I think I might be good at looking at a complex situation and describing it and simplifying it in a way that people might be able to believe. I always think simplicity is the key, really. So I would say, yeah, I mean, I've got my YouTube channel. I'm rubbish at video editing. I simply just sit and shoot a video. But I would say communicating authentically, because I really feel that is a gap in society at the moment, and I'm happy to be one of those people if that's what the world needs, because I think the world does need that, which is why I've kind of gone down that route, really. I like to social commentary, watching people and behavior, and trying to get deep into the reasons behind why people on it, really. That's what I find fascinating. Excuse me again. That's what I find fascinating.
You better have a drink. So I shouldn't encourage the communication. And, bringing people to networking and that sort of thing.
I mean, I probably need to have a little bit more of a think. I grow a lot of my own stuff with my girlfriend Sarah as well. We grow a lot of our own produce. Right. I've done a couple of videos about that as well.
Very valuable skill, isn't it?
I've been interested in financial matters, really. And one of the things I've realised is that money is really a concept and a mindset, really, rather than anything else, I think. So, communicating a message, I think, and trying to maybe attract people to the cause. Because the cause is truth and freedom, isn't it? As far as I can see, truth, freedom, and community and connection. That's what I've realised. The truth is number one, and freedom number two. And I would say, and there's going to come a point, I hope, where at the moment I feel like I'm just having to focus on my strengths at the moment, which is not a bad thing. There's so many weaknesses as well that I've got in my character, but I just think, you know what, now is the time just to focus on those strengths and just do what you can to.
Having that self-awareness is obviously very valuable, because you can point the finger. I've heard the story where you point one finger out and three fingers are pointing back at you.
Exactly. Yeah, that's I completely agree with that, and I try to do a video every now and again where it's like a self-reflection exercise, where I say sit down. In fact, I've got one long overdue. I'll do one in the next couple of days. Sit down and go through my list of values, and then I talk about, am I meeting those values or not? Where am I being hypocritical? Where am I out of alignment with my values? Where am I pointing the finger when I should be pointing the finger at myself. And it is exceptionally important to remain to remain introspective all the time, as introspective as possible. And I think I've got to remember that in these times of us trying our best to cajole people and to show people and to convince people that we are losing our truth, we're losing our freedom. We have to remember ourselves as well to stay grounded. And I need to tell myself that, every day, really. And I have to make sure that I never forget that, I think. So, yeah.
So if you were kind of turning it around a little bit, and now we thought about what you feel that people need to wake up more, they need to realize what's going on. What do you think you most need during these times? Because obviously it's very important to self-care and be self-compassionate. We suffer sometimes with the tribulations being thrust upon us for telling our truth.
So it's a good, not great, I'll be honest with you. I do feel really tired. I do. And I said before that I feel like I'm indestructible at the moment, and I'm going to make sure that I am indestructible, because as far as I'm concerned, we're in a war. We are in a war. So that's why it's not a time for niceness. It's a time to battle, and it's an emotional battle and a psychological battle. Like it's so draining.
So what do you think you most need in terms of support then? I mean, do you need to be able to talk to others? Do you need to just have your girlfriend talk to you of an evening, give you a massage? I mean, is there something specific that you'd like to put out to the wider community who is awake? I need David, and I need this from you. Just people to talk to. I think like today I'm struggling on that front, because I have a few people in my life. I do, but I don't get to. I think I need more opportunities, and I know it's up to me to do this, but I want to meet more people and to talk and connect with more people who have similar values to me, and who I can kind of like share the only word that it's trauma. It is psychological trauma that I've been through, and I know I'm not the only one, but it's traumatic to an extent. Absolutely. I don't know how I'll come on. Honestly, I don't know, but there was something deep inside me that made me carry on. And now that I've gone through that, I just feel tired all the time. Like all the time, I'm physically tired, mentally tired, emotionally tired, like literally all the time. But I just think, well, so be it. I can't like really, It's like really just having somebody unconditional to talk to, which is kind of what I do as a therapist, a place to share your concerns, but also to know what to do in your own time to help you through these times. I think everybody's been slightly traumatized, well, some to a greater or lesser degree. I mean, I myself go for therapy as a therapist because I know it's essential. And one of the things I was advised to do is to just get writing, and you write, but do some real free fall writing. Just write, just sit with a pen in your hand, just write. Doesn't have to make sense, it's not grammatically correct, there's no spelling checks, no punctuation, just write. So for example, that pop into your head to go angry, just write angry, piss me off, write it down, piss me off. It could be like a kind of diary, but not a diary, if you like.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's a good, I agree with that. I think I talked before.
When you come to your own writing, you're going to be researching it, and you're going to draw it in, and you're going to make it look correct, and you have to be disciplined. But this is a kind of undisciplined, kind of free flow,
organic kind of. Just let the words flat.
Let's go. There's a book called Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh, and he basically said, one day he sat down, he said, he was desperate, he had no work, he had no money, he had nothing, and he just said, God, why is this happening to me? And he just stopped and paused, and then whatever came into his head he just wrote down, and it was like God was speaking to him. So it's quite a dry book. I didn't finish reading it, but it was quite an interesting concept of just ask ask a question and then pause and wait. Just see what pops into your mind.
Wait for yeah. I think, yeah, and the word that kind of comes to me there is space. That's the word that instantly came to me, is because I don't think I give myself space, you know, because it's like I talk about being hypocritical, and you know, we're all living in the age of information, and to a greater or lesser degree, I think we're all enslaved by information, and I think I really struggle to like switch off from. I mean, that many Telegram groups, WhatsApp groups, Facebook groups. I don't watch the news for obvious reasons, but I feel it. I don't know whether you understand when I say this. I feel like I need to keep the darkness close to me. I need to understand and feel. I can feel evil in the world. I can feel it. And I feel like I need to stay close to it in order to be able to fight against it. And I know what it's doing to me. It's making me so, yeah, tired. I don't know whether it's doing like psychological damage. I don't know. I don't think so. But it's, do you know what I mean? It's like I'm going like really deep into the.
It's almost like you have to embrace this dark night of the soul so that you can appreciate the Great Awakening as it's happening.
Yeah, and fight against it and move to. Like the way I explain it is that I have to go into the darkness every now and again, and sometimes that's by drinking, right? Because I always emerge, and I get, it's almost like I get pulled further again towards the light, and I get another level of peeled off, another level of spiritual awakening, or whatever you want to call it. But it's like I need to. So like there's people who you know, we all have different approaches, and you have the type of people who very keen on the meditation and the yoga, and I do yoga, and the very zen and peace, and that's the way that they deal with it, and I can completely understand that. But for me, it seems to be I have to like expose myself to the darkness, but it's like too much for me sometimes. And sometimes I think, well, why are you doing it? But then I think, well, it's life and death. And then I think, well, why is it you that's doing this? And I wonder, you know, so it's hard. It's really, really hard.
It's almost like you've got to almost punish yourself in order to appreciate the lightness, the lightness, not light as in bright light, but the lighter of times, and then the deeper, darker. And I suspect there may be a time when you won't need to do that, but it feels like you need to do that at the moment. So asking for what you need is a kind of like, well, this is what I need right now. I need to appreciate the darkness so I can appreciate the lightness. But then you need space and someone to talk.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. You know, I mean, you know, I have had therapy myself as well, and you kind of get both times it's kind of like ran its natural course. But then I think, well, actually, I say it ran its natural course, and then I think, well, why? Maybe after a couple of months, I needed like some top-up sessions, and that's why I'm in this position that I'm in now. And when I say this position I'm in now, I'm not going under or anything like that. I'm not. It's just a general onslaught all the time. But yeah, I do feel that like someone to talk to would be beneficial. Again, I do think it would, you know. So that's probably what I would say. And I think in terms of the I have had issues with like punishing myself and you know, and self-destructive behavior and self-sabotage, and that's still an issue for me, and I know it is. And I begin to understand it, but it's such a complex dilemma, that one. That what maybe one day I'll work out. But I do, and I'm not just saying this, but genuinely each time I don't know whatever you would want to call it, maybe not act in accordance with my values. Yeah, it's usually getting drunk. It is usually getting drunk, which does happen much less frequently now. And there's often been fallouts and things like that, but from it. But I do kind of emerge into this even brighter light, and I try and understand, why does it take that in order for me to, and maybe it's just a very, very useful realization that I'm imperfect, and that I have that in me, and that I need that every now and again, that reminder that,
Where you are
there's,
right now.
yeah, I don't know. I haven't figured it out properly yet. I feel like I've figured out a lot of things to a degree, and other aspects, both in terms of me as an individual and watching society, I'm still trying to figure them out. So yeah.
So I mean, it feels what in kind of summing up, it's the communication is a big thing, is a big part of all of this in all its forms. It's what you experience out there and how you want to help them. It's how you want to help others understand. And it's also knowing that actually you need that communication too, just for you, in order to have that for you. In kind of wrapping this up, are there any kind of final thoughts that you'd like to share in terms of anything?
Well, thanks first of all for the opportunity to come in here and speak to you, and I think it's a great initiative that you've got, and I would come back and chat to you at any point at all, because I've really enjoyed the conversation, for one. So definitely, please do let me know if you want me to come back on. And likewise, Kate, as well. I may, if you're interested, interview you for my YouTube channel and get your perspectives, so that might be good if you wanted to do that. But in terms of, I think I see it that we're in a war, right? I think this is a war. I think we're living at a period in history where there's a meeting of, where for the first time, technology is threatening to overtake us, it's threatening to consume us, and it's threatening to destroy us. And we need to wake up as many people as possible to the fact that this really is the most critical juncture in all of human civilization and all of human history. But we need to remember that every other time in history, ultimately, the truth wins. So there's no reason why that's not going to happen this time as well. Yes, I am very worried. And yes, I don't know how it's going to play out. But I do know that in the end, whether that's sooner or later, the truth is going to win out here. And it gives us, those of us who are already ahead in the journey of awakening, I have had more spiritual development, I meant to say this, in the last year, far more, under a time of extreme external turmoil. I now feel more rounded as a person, braver as a person, more authentic as a person, and more liberated as a person than I would have done had we been living in normal times. So it's a cliche to say we've just got to take the positives. It's recognizing that actually, despite everything that's happened, there are some positives. So, and it's just holding on to those, and never ever giving up, never surrendering, and always fighting for what we believe in, no matter how difficult it is. So yeah, that's what I'd like to say.
Keep up the good fight.
Yeah, keep up the fight. Yeah.
It's been really interesting talking to you. I'm fascinated by your own personal humility as well, and also the way that you get angry on other people's behalf. That's a positive from my perspective. When I heard you on YouTube talking about the parents and children and schools and how they're having to be tested, twice a week, and it seems just so wrong for the children's development. I could hear the passion in your voice. You said you were angry, but that was passion. This shouldn't be happening in the world. And we need communicators. We do need communicators. If in lesser times, it's going to be, we won't need to spread the message quite so much, because eventually it is going to have to filter down. It's going to be, if you imagine a sort of pyramid or a triangle, and you pour water from the top, eventually it trickles right down to the bottom. One way of looking at it. It's getting late. I'll do the best I can with the recording. I'm just going to
Yeah,
switch.
no rush.
I'll just switch off the recording now, if you don't mind. So
Yeah, okay.
just stop there.
Hi everyone. So tonight I had the pleasure of interviewing Dave, and Dave lives in the Merseyside in Lancashire, and he shares with us today some of his thoughts and feelings around what's going on today, how he came to where he is now, and what he most wants to give back to our society. He really enjoys writing and communicating and has his own YouTube channel. I'll provide a link to that below this clip. But here he is talking about some of his ideas and what's going on and what he feels humanity really needs today, and also sometimes what he needs himself. So enjoy watching.